Gentlemen, you know, it really doesn't matter if you're the most well-dressed man in the room, if you have the table manners of a goat, or if talking to you is like being alone. What you need is some class and sophistication. And that's what we're going to talk about today. 5 steps to becoming an extra large, sophisticated man. Here on Big Pretty Man. Hi, and welcome back to Big Pretty Man, a channel for the extra large man who wants to live his life large and in charge. I'm your host, Timothy Big Pretty Crowe. I'm a wardrobe and lifestyle consultant for the extra large man. You know, guys, I've went over a lot of things on this channel. Making up how to dress, how to match patterns, how to groom yourself, even on how to be a gentleman. However, one thing that we haven't covered is how to have a little bit of class and sophistication, because if you may have on the clothes and you may be well groomed, but you can put a pig in a suit doesn't make it a king. Doesn't make it a gentleman. It does no good if you have on the clothes and you're well groomed and you walk into a party and you have atrocious manners, you violate normal etiquette, and you don't have any conversation skills, or at least not the type of knowledge to really convey a wide variety of conversations, say at a dinner party or at a mixer, or even just in a basic even casual get together. A lack of sophistication can really be very detrimental, and all of a sudden all the attention you put into your clothes and your etiquette, and your grooming kind of goes out the window. You just become a dope, and a big dunce in nice clothes, and you don't want to be a big dunce in nice clothes. You want to come across as a worldly, cultured, sophisticated man. And that's a big order. Exactly what does that take? Well, it takes several ingredients to make a sophisticated man. We've covered some of them with dress as well as with being a gentleman. However, I feel like we have a lot more to cover to really make you a well-rounded, sophisticated gentleman. And it's not just being, to put out to other people. It makes you a more rounded person. So what I've come up with is 5 basic steps, to become an extra large, sophisticated man. So let's get started with them. The first one, which we've already covered, and that would be well groomed and well dressed. But within that, always, what's important is not just the clothes you're putting on, but the details. Pay attention to the minor details. A sophisticated man is always is paying attention to the most minute details, because he wants to put forward that the image, that best image, put forth that best presentation of who he is. It's a reflection of who he is. If you're a sophisticated, cultured man, you want your clothes to show that you have the attention, and the detail of a sophisticated and cultured man. So be sure to keep your shoes shined. Keep that up. Make sure all of your clothes are tailor fit. Also don't forget to keep your toenails trimmed, and keep your beard well groomed at all times. And your hair well trimmed and groomed. Don't keep your clothes looking crisp, and be sure to use use brushes to clean off your jackets and your trousers. Double check yourself before you leave the house. All that is very important. So when you step out, you are immaculate, because a sophisticated, cultured gentleman would accept nothing else but to look immaculate in whatever phase he's going out in. If he's going out casual, he's going to look immaculately casual. If he's going out formal, he's going to look absolutely perfect. if he's going out just kind of a dressy casual through his day, once again, he's always going to be spot on. If you look at, I know one of the more popular, GQ images is James Bond, and in all of his manifestations through all the actors, one thing that always holds up is that he's always immaculate in whatever he's doing. I mean, when he's shooting people, he's immaculate. And he also he's very cultured, and very sophisticated. That is the appeal of James Bond. Not only is he a spy and a Secret Service agent, but he's also a sophisticated, well-dressed man. You want to give forth that same type of air. So pay special attention to the little details. Yeah. Now, number 2 is something I've already spoke of partially in my other video, and that is to have good manners and good etiquette of a gentleman. Now, if you've seen my former video on how to be a gentleman, you'll remember that to be a gentleman is to be courteous, chivalrous, and honorable. That's what truly makes a gentleman, and I highly recommend you go back and watch that video. However, we didn't talk about etiquette, and technically etiquette and manners are two different things. Manners is how you treat people on a personal level, and you should treat them kindly. You should be kind. You should be chivalrous. You should be honorable. That's a gentleman. However, etiquette is more the rules of a society, usually, and they can depend upon different cultures, on how you conduct yourself in any social situation. It is the social rules, whether it be from proper dining to who goes first, how to shake hands, who speaks first in a conversation, those type of rules. And you definitely need to learn those rules. And there's something that has really slid into abeyance in the last, especially in the last 30 years, and they need to be brought back. One look at the arguments and the silliness going on social media can see that social media really needs some etiquette. And even if they don't have it, you can have it, because it makes you a more sophisticated man. It also makes you seem to rise above the miscreants that don't want to follow the rules of society. There is a time to violate the rules of society, but in most social situations, it's not the time. You don't want to come across rude. You don't want to come across loud. So, and in this one, I would recommend, there is a certain book I would recommend. It is actually an old book. It is called The Gentleman's Book of Etiquette and Manual of Politeness by Cecil B. Hartley. This book was published in 1860. So this is really going back to very vintage etiquette. And it's very funny to kind of read. It is entertaining. It's these little bites of information, little bullets of information broke up into topic. And some of them, of course, are extremely outdated, like how to treat your boot black, or how to carry your box of snuff, things like that. But then at the same time, when you read through it, a lot of what it's talking about, especially when it comes to social interactions, you find that that's pretty much, good etiquette is still pretty much timeless, and manners are still timeless. So the reason I recommend this book, there are a lot of other more modern books on etiquette. This book will make you think. You should read it with, you should read it bearing in mind when it was written, and with each of its manners and each of its etiquette, look at it and say, well, how would that, try to modernize it yourself. Do a good exegesis on this book and break it down and think, how would I update this? He talks about this, how would I update this? What is the rules on this now? How would this apply now? And find, and that goes beyond the rules that you'll see are pretty much universal. So the reason I recommend this book is this book will make you think, and the more you think about a subject, the more you know a subject. The more you investigate a subject, the more ingrained it becomes, both in your mind and then into your practice. And so, that's a bit of Slightly challenging homework that I'm giving you. This book is fairly cheap. You can get it on Kindle, or you can get it on most of the book services through your phones. I know I have it on my own iPhone books. Or even if you order, it's like $8. So it's not a very expensive book, and it is definitely one that you'll find both entertaining and extremely helpful. So I would highly recommend that, because learning proper etiquette when you go into a place, when you go into a mixer, when you go into a business meeting, when you go to a sit-down dinner, maybe something important that could really, with some high execs, or with a manager, or with somebody that, or even with your, say, future in-laws, showing good manners as well as knowing certain etiquette, can really make a huge difference. It can really project you in a more positive light, and really crystallize that first impression that you're going to end up making. So definitely learn etiquette and learn manners and be a gentleman. That is really the number one goal, or first goal, of a sophisticated man. Now, number 3 is one that I think that all people should endeavor to do, regardless if they're trying to be sophisticated or not, and that is to be well read. Be well read. Far too many people are not reading today. Everything is is on the computer, visualization on the computer or on television. People don't read enough and widely. And when I say be well read, I don't just mean fiction, and you should, of course, read fiction, both for your enjoyment and also, it increases your knowledge, your literary knowledge. But, read widely, in nonfiction. Read especially the areas of philosophy, history, political science, and the sciences. As well as some of the arts. You should have a very rounded knowledge, at least of the basics of these topics. If you're not into long reading, maybe, start looking up, you can use the computer, start looking up some of the bullets on things. Look up philosophy and look up the different types. Do you know the difference between social Darwinism and transcendentalism? Do you know what Neoplatonism is? Could you discuss this if somebody brought it up? Do you know the difference between the philosophies of Plato, and Aristotle or Marcus Aurelius? Do you know, if that come up at the party, would you be like, would you have to hang back, or could you throw in a little something? You may maybe not be an expert, but know a little something about it. Enough that, that you could, at least stand a bit into the conversation. But not only that, read the classical works of literature. Get to know the works of Shakespeare. Get to know the works of Mark Twain. Get to know the works of Dickens. And Hemingway. Those men, and James Joyce. And the myriad of other great authors. The poets Jack Frost, T.S. Eliot. Lawrence. Get a good knowledge of classic fiction. Classic fiction literature. Read the Bronte sisters. Read Frankenstein. It is a classic. You should. So that when you read those type of books, will not only give you, a knowledge of these writers, and give you something to talk about, and maybe hold your own in a more literate, group or society which you may confront. And that's, what may be expected of you because of the way you're dressed. Because people see a well-dressed man, they expect you, they're automatically thinking, well, this is a man of sophistication. This is a man of culture. If they walk up and they don't get that, they're going to be sorely disappointed. And there goes your image. And being well-read is one of the best ways to combat that. But like I said, regardless of that, do it for yourself. It'll make you a more intelligent, more more well-rounded person, and also it'll, being well-read in history and philosophy and political science, and as well as literature, can also make you much more informed of the contemporary issues. You'll find that you are, you have a greater insight, and that you can bring that to a conversation. And once again, trying to refer back to the book that I just recommended. I'm talking about don't get in arguments and debates. Avoid that. You can have conversations, but avoid debating. It's just detrimental to any social setting. Nobody really wants that. But either way, also, and that also brings another thing you need to be when it comes to read. Read about current events. Read the news, and read the news not just for the nation you live in, but read world news. And here in America, I'd highly recommend either going NPR or even for British news services or news services outside of the country, because our news services now, as everyone knows, has become very polarized. Into different political camps. It's very bipartisan. So it doesn't matter, if you watch Fox, you watch CNBC. Get the real flat news. Is from as unbiased sources as you can. I would recommend NPR in this country, or looking at overseas. And look in any story, look at what they're saying across different venues. But this will make you a more, when you do this reading and you keep up with current events, and you start seeing the parallels to what's going on now and what's happened in history, it's going to make you a much more rounded person. It's going to make you a much more intelligent person. And that is just as crucial to being, a sophisticated man as the suit that you're wearing, is the brain that you're carrying. Now, number 4 may be something that you may not have even considered, in being a sophisticated man, and that is to learn about the arts. You learn about painting, learn about, about music, learn about the theater and musicals and plays. Especially learn about art. Really, get you a good art book, an intro art book, and learn about art. Do you know the differences between, postmodernism and cubism or surrealism? Do you know the more contemporary forms of art? Could you explain those differences? If you can't, look it up and find out. You may be able to spot the work of Leonardo da Vinci through the Mona Lisa or the Last Supper, but could you spot some of his other paintings just from his technique and his style? You may know Picasso's Cubism, but would you recognize some of his earlier blue works? Do you know about Dali? You may know about Dali, but could you spot and describe a painting by Caravaggio? Get to know at least some of the bigger painters. The more famous artists. Whether it be from Monet to Monet, Manet to Monet to Chagall to Degas, to Michelangelo, to Caravaggio, to Raphael, to Rembrandt. Get to know these artists, get to know their styles, get to know the differences in these different types of art. So, because, a lot of times, I actually end up going to a lot of art gallery openings, personally. And that's the type of place a sophisticated man goes. And, and it's nice to have a little bit of knowledge about it. Now, you don't have to, be an art expert, but, and this time that we all waste either staring at silly crap on YouTube, except my channel, of course. This is education. But, or watching, people shaking their hind ends or wrecking bicycles on TikTok. Dedicate a little bit of your spare time to actually learn something. Look up look up a different artist. Look up the top 10 greatest artists and read those. Read about them. Use your internet time that you're wasting, that you're normally wasting towards bettering yourself. That's what I would recommend. But not only do you need to know, different types of art, but also, the world of music. And no, not just the contemporary. It's kind of good to know some of the contemporary music. But I'm talking about the classical music, of Beethoven and Bach, of Handel, of Wagner, but as well, could you tell or listening to them who you're listening to? Could you spot that? That's a project that you might want to take on. Listen to one artist's music for a week, and then maybe the next week one week listen to Bach, next week listen to Handel, next week listen to Beethoven. So that you get a knowledge of their music, and you get a knowledge, and you got an ear for hearing when their signature sounds, but not just in classical music, also in jazz, or in folk, or even in classic rock and roll and soul. Get a good rounded knowledge of music, just like you're trying to get a good rounded knowledge of high literature and philosophy and history. Try to get a well-rounded understanding of the arts. I mean, also to get a knowledge of theater and the history of theater. Go see plays. Go read about plays. Read reviews of plays. I'll go to musicals. Go see Cats. Go see Cabaret. Go see Oklahoma if it's ever showing. Be able to. So if these things come up in polite society and more sophisticated society, you'll be able to hold your own. You'll at least have some opinion. You don't have to, once again, you don't have to be an expert on everything. Just have some knowledge of these topics, a working knowledge. And who knows, you might actually find that you really enjoy these. You'll find how fascinating our culture, and world culture can be. It'll make you a much more, not only does it make you a much more rounded person, but it can actually help you evolve as a person. And that's, that's actually the even more important thing, So, be sure to experience, the great arts, from opera to Elvis, and from Dali to Michelangelo. It will make you a much more rounded person. Now, last but certainly not least is number 5, and that is to learn the skills of refinement. What I mean by the skills of refinement is, learn about the things that sophisticated men, have knowledge on, that goes along with their etiquette and their manners, and their knowledge. Have the refined taste and class, of a sophisticated gentleman. For instance, you learn about wines. Could you tell the difference between, a Merlot and a Pinot? Could you tell the, do you know, what wines go with what food? I mean, you may know that, liver and fava beans requires a nice Chianti. I couldn't resist, but do you know whether red or white goes with beef, or what goes with chicken, or what goes with fish? Do you have that knowledge about wines? Could you, do you have, so learn about wines. Learn about, the different types of wine, the red and the white. Learn about Chiantis, a Chianti. Learn about these different types of wine. That right there, will definitely add a little bit of class to your dress style and your mannerisms. Excuse me. Always people like me cough. I'm feeling this today. But not only that, but not just wines, but also learn cocktails, which I find very interesting. I mean, do you know how to make a martini, whether it be gin or vodka? Do you know how to make a Tom Collins, one of my favorite drinks? Do you know how to make a whiskey fizz? Do you know how to make a margarita or a daiquiri? Do you know how to make a Bloody Mary? These type of skills, if you have someone at your house and you can mix their drink, that's a form, that is a refinement of a gentleman. That's of a sophisticated man. So definitely, get you a nice little book. They're not very expensive, or even look them up online. The different types of drinks. Look up the most popular drinks and learn how to make them. Even if you don't ever make them yourself, at least have the knowledge of what's made, and try these different types of drinks if you're a drinker. Try a few. Like I said, I'm very fond of a Tom Collins. I'm also like a screwdriver on occasion. But do you know how to make a Harvey Wallbanger? Learn how to make a Harvey Wallbanger. It didn't get called on much, but see, you'll have that knowledge. Another one is to learn about fine cuisine. If you want to learn how to cook, that's another skill of a sophisticated gentleman. Is a refining skill is to know how to cook, but not just cooking chili or stew or beef stew, the things that men normally cook. Most men's cooking is done in a microwave, and usually has hot dogs on the menu. But learn how to make beef Wellington. Learn how to make a good bisque. Learn how to make Yorkshire pudding, or maybe or make Italian food. Learn how these different. If you have that interest in cooking, at least learn some of them. And even if you don't have an interest in cooking, at least know about fine dining from across international levels. Know the different type. I mean, for instance, would you know how to recommend a place for a good shashuka? Would you, or maybe a good Indian restaurant for a good aloo gobi? Could you recommend a good Ethiopian restaurant that has the best injera bread? You get to know the different cultures, the different menus, the different cuisines of different cultures. Not only that, but that will also make you much more well-rounded. And who doesn't enjoy? I mean, we're big men; we enjoy to eat. So this is something that would be right up our alley. I mean, don't be gluttonous about it or seem like you're obsessed about it. But if somebody brings it up, and people bring up music, politics, social things, and food is their normal topics. So this one really does come in handy. So learn about the different cuisines of the world. Another one that I would recommend. And this one is one I'm actually planning to do myself. I haven't completed this list yet myself. And that is learn how to do the classic dances. I mean, what sophisticated, cultured gentleman doesn't know how to waltz? How to ask a lady to dance and give her a good waltz, or do a tango, or maybe even do a salsa. At least learn, to slow dance, maybe even if you really want to get, into it and you really want to impress, learn how to, get into a swing class, learn how to do swing dancing. I always thought that looked like a lot of fun. So that's actually one of my next goals on my list of becoming more sophisticated. I want to learn more of the classic dances, and I plan on doing that pretty soon. So learn to dance. Learn food. These are the refinements of gaiety. Learn how to make drinks. Learn about wines. Learn about fine food. Learn how to dance. That is going to make you not only a well-rounded man, but one very comfortable in any room you walk into. Walk in the room and they're doing dances, you got it. Walk into a place that got fine dining, now you know the table etiquette, but you know exactly what you're eating and what to recommend. And you know what wines to drink. This will make you, especially in a social situation, seem like the ultimate sophisticated gentleman. And while you're at that dinner, you can have any conversation they're having at the table. That's what this list will do for you. So in the end, if you follow these 5 steps, not only will it make you a very sophisticated man that you'll be projecting out. You're projecting out that you're a sophisticated gentleman. But even more than that, it's giving you a much more important gift. And that is the gift of being a well-rounded, intelligent, and evolving human being. An evolving man who is thoughtful, who is an intellectual, who is intelligent, who can look at the world. It also brings about confidence. It makes you a more evolved person. And really, when you get down to it, that's what it's all about. You know, and let me tell you something. When you're well-read, when you're well-informed, when you know etiquette, when you know the social graces, especially, let me tell you something. Those are, if you refer back to my thing about talking to women, let me tell you something. You know, I always say we have to compensate for our being heavy men. If you want to compensate for being a heavy man, not only do you go by the dress, but you go by these five different steps, and the women are going to notice you. You are going to be, because a lot of women find a intelligent, well-rounded, well-spoken man, you know, who is also well-dressed, to be very irresistible and very attractive. So there's that plus. But in the long run, you should do it for yourself. You're like, you know, Tim, this seems like all artsy-fartsy stuff. Well, you know, what is it in life that we learn? You know, is it all going to be just watching sports? There's nothing wrong with sports, or you know, or watching videos on YouTube all day. You know, until you die. You're here to learn. If you look back at my video talking about, you know, living your dreams. Well, part of living your dreams is to gain knowledge in this world. We're not on this planet for very long. We have about 20 collective years of livable life. Are you going to waste it on trivial things? Are you going to expand your mind through literature? Are you going to expand your mind through the study of philosophy? Are you going to experience the great masters of art and literature? And are you going to learn the finer things in life? You know, what else do you have to do that is more important than that? You know, what subjects do you need to know more? Other than perhaps the knowledge of your vocation, what other knowledge and what other training would you want to do as a person? I mean, nobody wants to be seen as stupid or ignorant. You know, nobody wants to be seen as rough around the edges or uncouth. People want to be seen as, men want to be seen as gentlemanly, intelligent, and classy. And to have class, it takes some work. But you know what? By doing this, not only are you will you be a very classy man outside, you know, in the world abroad, but for your own self, you're going to be an evolved class act, and that's what it's all about. Okay. Well, that's all I've got for this video. And you know, another very necessary, I could call it step 6 to being a sophisticated and gentlemanly man, is to subscribe to Big Pretty Man. Just playing, but it couldn't hurt. Seriously, if you are enjoying my content, then please, you know, give me a comment. Tell me some of the important things that you feel like a gentleman or sophisticated man needs to know. You know, you can hit me up on the comments below, through the email below in the description, through Facebook, through Instagram, through Twitter. I'd love to hear from you. I'm always love to hear from my subscribers and my fans. So you know, get well read, get well groomed, look at some beautiful paintings, have a nice glass of wine, and until you do, and while you do, you stay pretty. Here's to you.